new programs that are thrown at you frequently that you have to learn, all of the new rules. So registered apprenticeship, we've been talking about it for a long time. Sometimes it's hard for everybody in the job center to be an expert on everything. So here's my question. If you have a question on registered apprenticeship, who do you reach out to? Is it your manager? Is it your one-stop operator? Is it the Department of Labor representative at the state level? Who is that? I'm very interested. And again, some background while you guys are answering. Part of NADUP's work through this Center of Excellence grant is gaining some information and compiling it on business service representatives and business service activities throughout the country, just to get a good picture of how things are working. And you would be very surprised. Some states have identified business service reps. That it's a human, it's their only job. It's what they do day in, day out. Some areas, whether it's a resource area or just their plan, they have teams who do that work. So it's not one particular person, it's a team of people who do that business, provide those business services. And then we have states who really don't have any business service coordinated effort. And I know that sounds like a really wide range of what's going on, but it is. And I think that helps us to understand how we need to get this professional development out. So we can't just assume that everybody's doing it the same way. We have to make sure that our professional development works for any state and how they're doing business service and how they're representing registered apprenticeship out there. So let's go through some of these questions. Okay, we had a question which I don't know the answer to, but I can find out. What percentages of registered apprenticeships are associated with expansion industries? I don't know. I will put that on my list. Here's my next question out to you guys is how many of you guys track the co-enrollment of apprentices and WIOA? So you can co-enroll if somebody's doing an apprenticeship program with a local employer, they're eligible for WIOA. You can co-enroll them. I'm interested in knowing how many people track that, whether it's locally through their state system. Okay, Mary Ann brought up a couple good points. So there are two approaches to jumping into registered apprenticeship. One is to support existing community and employer registered apprenticeship, and one is to create and maintain your own registered apprenticeship. You may even be a sponsor. That's a great question, Mary Ann, because that's one that one of our partners has sent out to us as well. Is your workforce board a registered apprenticeship sponsor, and or has there been a discussion within your state of boards being a registered apprenticeship sponsor? So again, that's a board level question, but it doesn't matter if you work at the board level or not. If your board's a sponsor and you're in that local area, you should know. So let us know, yes, no, maybe, if your workforce board is a registered apprenticeship sponsor. All right, let's go to the next one. What portion of registered apprenticeship is the most difficult to understand? So this is something that we've been, talking about for quite some time. NADUP has tried to do professional development before, and it's been very successful, but it's been a comprehensive approach from the very beginning to the very end, which means we can't get super detailed on any one thing. So we are wondering what part of that process is the most difficult. Is it getting started? Is it finding a sponsor? Is it finding the employer? Is it selling it to the potential sponsor employer, just what part of that process is the most difficult for you guys? Go ahead and enter that into the chat. Okay, we have a question. Can existing apprenticeship be modeled in application for different state perhaps? So yes, that's actually one of the things that this Center of Excellence is that we're working on. So we have the center announced today actually that it would launch apprenticeship partnership development and alignment with stakeholders in 5 states. California with CWA, the California Workforce Association, Missouri with the Missouri Office of Workforce Development and the State Workforce Development Board, Texas with the Texas Workforce Commission, North Carolina with the North Carolina Association of Workforce Boards, and Iowa with Iowa Workforce Development. So we envision and hope that we're going to work with those 5 key states. We're going to identify best practices and models that can be replicated and moved throughout. Part of that, though, is not just duplicating the best practices. Part of that will be identifying where the shortcomings come from so we can provide the professional development out to everybody that they need to make it happen. All right, we had one answer on the most difficult part of apprenticeship, and I assumed that this would be the case. Selling it to the employer. So why would the employer want to do a registered apprenticeship when, especially in the market right now? The market right now, they're trying to find job seekers. Now, a year ago, I shouldn't say a year ago. I think in my mind, the pandemic has been like in the last year, and it's been in the last 2 years. I'm in pandemic time. 2 years ago, employers could hire somebody that they needed off the street, whether they trained them in-house or had them trained someplace else. That is not the case anymore. I know you guys have seen the help wanted signs everywhere. Supply chains are struggling greatly because we don't have workers. I think that that's one of the biggest selling points with registered apprenticeship to employers, but I definitely have that on the list as development that we need to, something we need to develop to help with that salesman. And, I think it was Celia that asked that question. Most of us got hired into workforce development and we weren't salesmen prior to our work here. Most of us came from different backgrounds. So I think that that's really good training actually, is how do we, and we're not selling's probably a bad word to use, or not the correct word to use, but how do we adequately promote the benefits of a program like this to a business? And that's what we need to develop. All right, Lisa, welcome. I didn't see your name at first. Sorry, I recognized Judy. Lisa Rice is with us as well from Softball Partners. She's brought up a good point that they will have an application process in year 2 of our contract. So this is a 4-year initiative, okay, that what we're working on. But we want to add states. So we're starting with those 5 states that I mentioned. We do want to add states to that. So if you're interested, Lisa, do you want to add a little bit about that application process and why we're doing that? Why do we want to add more states?
Yeah, and so we chose the 5 that we chose because they kind of go across a whole different variety of rural, OA, SAA states. They have a really nice mix that we can pull from, and we can be able to say, okay, this may be a problem when you're trying to, or a challenge when you're trying to do apprenticeships in an OA state versus an SAA. So that's why we chose those 5. That does not mean, first of all, that we won't be reaching out to everybody and asking you to send us your information. So this whole call for best practices is a way for us to get information. I know Michigan has a boatload of things going. There are other states who have a boatload of things going. We want to hear from you guys. What we're going to try and do when we hear from you and get those best practices is to have basically kind of a review process that happens where we will then try to highlight you and what you're doing. And we would ask that you would become more or less like a coach to someone else. So if they say, oh my gosh, I'd love to do that, but I've never even thought about it. So who do I reach out to? Who do I get the step-by-step from? We'd love for you to be able to say, yes, we want to be in that. So there's all that. Then the 5 additional states takes us into a place where we want to expand what we're doing. So when we go into these first 5 states, one of the pieces that we're doing is a process called strategic doing, which many of you may have heard about. It is a way to put together an action plan to move things forward. And it's much different from a strategic plan. It is an action plan, do this in 90 days. So in these 5 states, we'll be identifying challenges and moving them forward and hopefully taking those lessons learned and providing them to you. So we want to take that to an additional 5 states that also have, good practices, but maybe some challenges as well that we can help move things forward. So that's part of our way to kind of share more, grow the love more, shall I say, as in addition to the best practice pieces that we're doing. So thanks, Melissa. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking so forward to working with all of you guys. And if you haven't already, I notice a lot of names that I know and everything. Would you please take 2 seconds and go out to LinkedIn and find me? You can find me with Lisa Rice, Soffel Partners, and just let's connect that way, because we will be sharing all sorts of things and we want to make sure that you get to see it that way as well. So just join in and, link to me. Hey, I'll tell you on the side, I'm a cutie. I also have people who reach out to me all the time and say, do you happen to know anybody in workforce development that might live in such and such a state and would like to do something? So yeah, I'll be your job connection too, but don't tell anybody. Thanks.
There's something else that I want to point out, because I'm getting a lot of information through the chat. Thank you guys so much. Again, I apologize for having to look over to the side to see that. Disclaimer, that's because my camera is on my laptop, which is little. My chat's on my big screen, which is bigger, which lets me read it. So I can see it clearly that way. A lot of you guys are sending direct messages, and I love that. But I want to tell you this about your conversations with NADA through Registered Apprenticeship. Ask the questions. Tell us the issues. Tell us about the problems. Tell us about the best practices. But we're getting ready, and Marianne, we're actually working on this initiative right now with Marianne and the task force. We're going to be putting out a survey to really just identify where the knowledge is on registered apprenticeship right now. And then we're going to follow that up with a post test at the end of this 4-year initiative. So for those of you that have or still do work with youth, we're going to pre and post tape test you guys on some apprenticeship stuff. But we want you guys to be super honest with us. So don't be afraid to put something in the comments to everybody. I have no idea if I'm in an OA state or an SAA state. What does that mean? Because I would have considered myself fairly knowledgeable about apprenticeship at the local level. I had worked with a business who was the sponsor of a community college, career tech ed, all of these people. I probably couldn't have answered that question, OA versus SAA. Even though I knew who I was supposed to talk to, I couldn't have answered that specific question. So I say all that to say this: don't be afraid to reach out to NADA. Don't be afraid to discuss those kinds of things. But if you are, continue to send me those direct messages, because we can definitely do that.
That's great, Melissa. Can I just add too, when this whole assessment survey comes out, be brutally honest, because we're not sharing it out as, oh, Celia answered this way and Todd answered this way. We're nothing like that. We are just trying to get like a baseline feel for where's the pain with you guys? Where are you at? Where you're like, I know how to do this part, but I don't know how to do this part. So be brutally honest, please, with all of those assessments that we send to you. And please take the time to do them. You wouldn't believe how valuable they are to us in actually guiding this work. So it makes a difference for you.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Okay, so we only have about 5 minutes left in our first little listening session. You guys are welcome. It's going to be the same type of format, slightly different questions, slightly different participants. I know that we're going to have Maria Brady on as well with the Office of Apprenticeship. So super excited to have her. I will tell you that Maria, this is National Apprenticeship Week. So if you guys, there's a whole web page on apprenticeship.gov that is dedicated to this. If you guys have events, proclamations, anything like that, we definitely want you to register them there. So Maria is super busy, but she is going to join us and we're going to talk to her about all of these things. But another question for NADA is, has your workforce board done any focus specific to registered apprenticeship for your staff? So have you done any registered apprenticeship training for your staff? If so, how often? I know Marianne is a trainer that NADA uses quite frequently. And you can't it's not just a one and done, right, Marianne? You can't just train once and move on. So let me know. Yes, Marianne says Maria Brady has lots of energy and loves registered apprenticeship.
That's an understatement.
That is an understatement. Maria makes me tired just talking to her through Zoom. So, okay, let's see. Are there any other direct questions that we can answer?
I just want to, Ms. Marianne, I just want to emphasize what Melissa just said. There's so many different trainings that occur around the country, and some of them are much more complicated than others. It's extremely important that workforce professionals figure this out before you're out trying to sell it, before you're out trying to get business engagement, because your job is partially to simplify it for the business so that it's not taking them a lot of extra time.
Yep, absolutely. And that's something that is near and dear to my heart. It actually addresses a question that we've had in the chat of, there's a problem of getting the human resources manager to advance the registered apprenticeship info to plant management. So we know that a lot of times the connection between any kind of business services that we have at the workforce board or at the job center level is with HR. And we have to really sell it to HR to get HR to talk to anybody else at the plant about it. So we'll definitely look into that. That'll kind of go into those tips and tricks for promoting this and doing all of that. But like Marianne said, we need to make sure that the training that we're developing, and this is something that NADUP takes very, very seriously. So the whole reason NADUP exists is to provide professional development to workforce professionals, to connect, advance, inform. But we want to make sure that this training is not just happening at the board level. It's not just happening at the job center level. It's not just happening at the partner level, because everybody has to understand for there to be synergy and for it to actually take hold. And I think that's probably been some of the difficulty in the past with some of the training that's out there on registered apprenticeship, is it's really directed at one level. And if everybody doesn't understand it, it really, really is hard to take hold and take effect. So I'm going to check on the chat one more time. Let's see if there's anything going on. Listening to the recording. Yes. So we are going to put all of these. Now, These are fairly informal. For those of you that know me, this is kind of how I roll. For those of you that don't know me, I'm so glad to meet you, and this is how I roll. We're pretty informal. I like to talk. So we are going to put these, we're going to put them up on the Not Up YouTube channel. Not Up also very shortly will have a page on our website that's completely dedicated to everything with the Center of Excellence and Registered Apprenticeship. So you guys can go there to find any information. But we will definitely put the recording up for you guys to listen to. And then I will be going through the chats. Remember, there was a lot of direct chats. I will not identify anybody. I'll make everything very unidentifiable in questions and concerns, and put together kind of a white paper of what we've done today and actually all 4 of those sessions. And we'll post that as well. So you guys, if you had a similar question, you guys can kind of see the similar answers. All right, guys, I think that's it. It's 1:30. Have a fantastic Monday. Happy National Apprenticeship Week. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone. Come
Thank you.
back.
Thank you very much.
They'll be different every time.
Thank you.